All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Mark Hamlin. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I'll be your host tonight. Glad to have you all with us. Really excited about the information we're going to be sharing with you tonight. You might want to take a few notes. And as I mentioned earlier, excuse me, this is a Q&A webinar. And so you will have the opportunity to get your questions answered at the end of this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started here. Well, first of all, it is time for new possibilities. How many of you would agree with that? You know, we live in the greatest country in the world, but just like any other country, we've got challenges. And right now is definitely the time for a new blueprint, which is a new emerging solution for some of the challenges we may have. One of the great things about America, America is all about freedom and it's about ownership, but neither one is free. There is a price that has to be paid. And so what we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to show you how to access one of the greatest phenomenons that's taken place around the world. It's an opportunity for you and me to get funding for any legitimate cause that we may have. So it's nothing new. It's been going on since 2008, and it's absolutely awesome, changing a lot of lives all around the world. So let's go ahead and get into it. What are we talking about? We're talking about crowdfunding. And what is crowdfunding exactly? Crowdfunding is the Internet's #1 newest, most exciting, and phenomenon and social trend for raising funds. It's the idea of passing a basket around at church with a large crowd of people being able to contribute small amounts of money, which combined meet the financial goals of any organization, group, or individual. Of course, there's a lot of media attention. In fact, Forbes magazine had a recent article, August 2014, crowdfunding is the next big trend. And Wikipedia defines it as the practice of funding a project or venture by raising monetary contributions from a large number of people, typically via the Internet. In a nutshell, crowdfunding is the 21st century way to fundraise. And so if you need funding for any personal, business, or charitable cause, if you're doing it, yard sales and bake sales and all these other things, that's old school. We want to bring you up to speed right now, and you'll be glad that we did. So crowdfunding is a worldwide phenomenon that is now helping to make the dreams of people just like you and me come true every day. To the tune of over $6 billion was given to people to help them in 2013, over $16 billion last year, and the World Bank estimates over $96 billion over the next few years. Crowdfunding is a powerful new global economy. In fact, in 2013, Facebook and crowdfunding were neck and neck in terms of the revenue that they generated, with Facebook grossing close to $6 billion, crowdfunding grossing $6 billion, and with crowdfunding reaching $16 billion in 2014, it has now outperformed Facebook by billions of dollars. Bigger than Facebook now, that's powerful. Powerful enough to fund any project, big or small, that you may desire. So let's look at a few examples of what this phenomenon has done to help people around the world. First of all, if you're looking on my screen, you're going to see James Robinson. You may have heard about him. Well, he's a gentleman who lives in Detroit. And some years ago, his car broke down. He only makes about $10 an hour. He couldn't afford to get the car repaired, nor could he afford to buy a new one. So he did the next best thing. He walked back and forth to work 10 miles each way for over 13 years. Well, needless to say, his friends noticed. They did a crowdfunding campaign on his behalf. The media got a hold of it, publicized it all over the world, and people just like you and I gave small donations, a total of over $349,000 to help him. It took 13,000 people just 1 month making these small donations in order to contribute this amount of money. So I have a couple of questions for you. Did this really happen? Now, if you have any question or any doubt about this, you should go online and Google it. Next question is, where did the money come from? Did this money come from the government? Was it a grant? Was it a loan? Does it have to be repaid? And the answer is absolutely no, it doesn't. Next question is it legal? All right, let's go a little further. Now, here's another lady. This is Natalie. Now, Natalie likes to bake. And so she would go to the flea market and she would sell her little cookies, cakes, and all those other things until she was able to raise enough money to open up her own shop. And so she opened up a shop in a little town called Ferguson. You ever heard of that? Well, unfortunately, her place was looted. They destroyed her business, busted her windows, and everything else. It was pretty bad. So her friends noticed it. They did a crowdfunding campaign. Their goal was to raise $25,000 to help Natalie. Well, needless to say, people like you and I gave small amounts of money for a total of over $270,000. Now, here's the question. Did this really happen? Absolutely. Did this money come from the government? Was it a grant? Was it a loan? Does it have to be repaid? And the answer is absolutely no. Is it legal? Well, you should know it absolutely is legal. My next question is, would you like some? Well, we're going to explain to you how you can tap into this funding as well. So let's take a look at another gentleman. This is Hector. And Hector lost his job. His family became a one-income family. He lives in Chicago. Now, they had to move from their two-bedroom apartment to his mother's basement because he could not afford the $850 rent on just the one income. So Hector went to his church, and he made a donation into their shared crowdfunding platform. You're going to understand what that is here in just a moment. And then he went out and he did what he was taught. So let's talk about that. So the church is doing something here. They actually created their own project because when the people are struggling, the church is going to struggle, right? So churches have to be innovative just like everybody else. So they decided that they were going to do a crowdfunding project to raise money to purchase a business. They were going to use the income from the business to fund the ministry. So they introduced the concept to the ministry and to the church and said, listen, you guys, you can donate in an offering basket, but this time we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a crowdfunding project and promote our project to the world. Now, if you want to donate to our crowdfunding project, this is what we're going to do for you. We're going to show you how to set up your own project. And as a community, we're going to help you get it funded so you can get the money you need to take care of your family. Maybe you need a new car, you want to send your kids to college, maybe you want to pay off your house, maybe you want to start a business. How many of you would like to work with us on that level? Raise your hands. What kind of response do you think they got? They got a great response. Why? Because it's not just about the organization in this case. It's about the organization and it's about my family. It's a win-win situation. And so this is what Hector did. He donated to the church's project, and 100% of the money went to the church. Then he went out and did what they taught him. What did they tell him? They told him to go out and spread the word. Let the people know that you found a way to get the funding for your new house. The great thing is not a grant, it's not a loan, and there's no repayment required. The money's coming through crowdfunding. Do you know anyone who needs funding for anything? And that's exactly what Hector did. He went out and spread the word. And within 90 days, he was able to raise a significant deposit so he could close on that four-bedroom house that you see him standing in front of. So let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, do you have a dream, a project, or an aspiration that's close to your heart? And what is your dream exactly? Perhaps you want to start or expand a business. Maybe you want to build or renovate a church. You want to create a project to make a better world. Maybe you want to fund home improvements. Or you want to pay off college loans. You want to pay off a wedding. Perhaps you need a new car. You need a house. Or you want to improve your retirement fund. Or maybe you simply just want to pay off some loans, pay off some bills, pay off your mortgage. Maybe you want to become debt-free. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these are all reasons why you too can have your own crowdfunding project and get funding for it. That's not a grant, not a loan. It doesn't have to be repaid. So let's talk about this a little more. And one of the things you need to understand is that there are many different types of crowdfunding platforms out there. There's platforms for teenage mothers, for veterans, for people with different physical challenges. There's crowdfunding for people who want to invest in real estate. There's many different types, but most of these platforms have three things in common. First of all, they charge you a fee or a percentage of your donations that come in just for using their platform or their website. They require you to do all your own marketing. This means that you have to contact hundreds or thousands of people through your own efforts to ask for contributions. And in many cases, they have time limits. In other words, if you don't reach your goal within the time limit, the money is actually returned to the donators. So that's called direct funding. And what I want to do right now is break it down so you have a thorough understanding of how this works so you can go out and have your own successful crowdfunding campaign. So first of all, you need a project. You need a reason for people to donate to you. Then you're going to choose one of these websites or platforms that's going to host it for you. Next, it becomes your responsibility to do your own promoting. Now, the projects that raise the most money, they already have a large database of supporters or people who know, like, and trust them. So if you have a lot of Facebook friends, that's a plus. Now, you also need to have money to advertise, and a lot of these projects have a team of people promoting one particular project. And finally, if you have a media-worthy project like James Robinson and you're lucky, you just might get media attention, and that's free advertising. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, most projects don't have these resources, and only a small percentage of projects and people actually get funded. So there's a report I read recently that only 10% of crowdfunding projects actually get funded. And so what we just explained to you is what it takes to succeed, because a lot of people simply think that you can write a project and put it out there and people are going to donate, but it doesn't work like that. There's work involved. So what makes us different? Because we're a traditional crowdfunding platform just like all the others, only thing we're on steroids. All right, so the first thing you should understand is that with us, direct funding is free. And that's our gift to you just for being on this webinar today. You can thank the person who referred you. They'll show you how to get set up. So the first thing you need to know is that we do not charge you to host your project. We also do not collect your donations. Your donations go directly to you. With the other platforms, the money goes through the company, and you have to wait sometimes 30, 60, 90 days in order to get your money. Also, you receive 100% of the donations. All that money goes to you, and although you have to do your own promoting, all the donations go directly to you, so therefore you have no wait time. So that's very powerful differences that you have with us. And just get back to the person who referred you. They'll show you how to get set up with that direct funding, and that's totally free. Now, but with direct funding, for the most part, you're pretty much on your own. And you have to go out and find people who will donate to you. And then most folks are going to stop, and when you stop, of course, the donations stop, right? So we want to share with you tonight a better way. Today we're going to share with you a revolutionary new way to accelerate your funding efforts for any campaign you may have. And in the process, help many others do the same. Because it's one thing, ladies and gentlemen, for you and I to go out and get the funding we need, but it's another thing when we can show other people how to get the funding they need. That's true greatness, wouldn't you agree? And isn't that what life is all about? Absolutely. So with us, we use accelerated funding, and I'm going to share with you what that it gives you the ability to do. First of all, it gives you the ability to help others. It's something very special when you can help other people. It has a way of coming back to you, if you know what I mean. Also, gives you the ability to get instant donations as well as cash donations. You may need some help right now. You don't have time. You need help today, but we're going to show you how to get that. You also have the ability to get primary donations and secondary donations, which we'll explain in a moment, as well as international donations. So international donations is really big and important because a lot of crowdfunding growth is actually overseas. In fact, the majority of it is. All right, so let's go a little further. Now, ladies and gentlemen, crowdfunding is a new concept, but it's also an old concept. I'm going to explain for you. It actually comes from something called cooperative economics. Cooperative economics is the way that people have helped each other throughout history when they lack the resources. It's people coming together and supporting one another. Now, as you know, we had the mortgage meltdown in our country. Not long ago, a lot of people lost homes, and which is a terrible thing, through foreclosure. Well, I found out that mortgages have only been around since the 1930s. So I asked the question, how were homes built before mortgages existed? Well, of course, a lot of people paid cash, but a lot of people also simply helped each other build their homes and their bonds. And the way it worked, ladies and gentlemen, is that you would lend your time and your talent within the community to help build someone else's house. And when the time was right, the community will come over and help you build your house. People simply helped each other. Isn't that a novel idea? So that's how it worked. And it still goes on in our country. The Amish do it. Mennonites do it. There's an organization out there called Habitat for Humanity. Maybe you heard about them. But they didn't invent the concept. It goes back into ancient history. Now, here's another concept you may or may not be aware of. It's called social finance, or ROSCA, which stands for Rotating Savings and Credit Association. Look it up online. It's also called the Poor Man's Bank. Around the world, participants make regular contributions to a fund, which is distributed in whole or in part to each contributor in rotation. So what you have is about 5 people, small groups of people, who will agree to put so much money into a fund every month for 5 months. So let's say they agree to put $1,000 in the fund. That means there would be $5,000 in the fund each month. And then each person would get to take that money and use it to fund a business or to start a business. They just had to agree to continue to put the $1,000 in even after they received their $5,000. Now, this wasn't based on your credit report, ladies and gentlemen. This was based on your social credit, which was your ability to keep your word and to be a man or woman of integrity. Because many of these cultures, they were honor-based cultures, and your word meant something. And if you failed to keep your commitment, it would spread around the community, and nobody else would deal with you on that level again. Make sense? So now this concept has been going on around the world for years. In fact, in Latin America, it's called tandas. In Mexico, it's called cadenas. In West Africa and the Caribbean, it's called susu. In Asia, it's called we. In Brazil, quinila. And in India and Pakistan, it's called the ko. And so you see different groups establish themselves economically within our country in businesses, but what you don't see is that in many cases, the people came together and they helped each other economically. Isn't that a novel idea? And I submit to you that maybe that is the solution for the middle class in America today, people coming together to help each other. So that's an intro into our platform, ladies and gentlemen. It's called Community Crowdfunding, and this is where people work together in similar ways to create inspired lives for one another. What's an inspired life? That's when you have the resources to go out there and do the thing you love to do, to utilize your gifts and your talents. Are you with me? Without being restrained because you have to keep a job in order to support your family. This is what we're talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about freedom on Memorial Day. Now, Napoleon Hill said this. He said, it's literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed. Would you agree with that? Rather than doing it by yourself, paycheck to paycheck. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a known fact that together, as a community, we're extremely wealthy. But individually, that's when we struggle to make it paycheck to paycheck. So what would happen if the people simply came together, even just a little bit? Well, that's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to share with you how by partnering together with one another that you can raise unlimited funds via crowdfunding for your favorite project, dream, or personal aspiration. And in the process, share it forward to help other family, friends, and business connections do the same. Truly, this is the spirit of people helping people. You know, I'm going to stop right here because we need to talk for a second. There's a book out there that you might want to read. It's called For All the People. Go ahead and write it down. For All the People. The author's name is John Curl, C-U-R-L. For All the People, The Hidden Story of Cooperatives in America. Now, first of all, he calls it the hidden story because he had a hard time finding this information. It's almost as though nobody wants you to know. But this is what he found. Just 200 years ago in America, 92% of people were self-employed entrepreneurs. They were farmers, they were merchants, they were artisans, and they were craftsmen. And the last thing they ever wanted to do was to go out and to take a job because they considered that to be wage slavery. You might want to look that word up. What's wage slavery? That's when your livelihood and your ability to take care of your family is based on someone else paying you a salary. That's a situation they never wanted to be in, ladies and gentlemen. But something happened because we went from 92% self-employed to 92% employees. All right, let's talk about that because we're getting to a little bit of history right now. Well, it started with the Industrial Revolution. You remember a guy by the name of Eli Whitney? He invented the cotton gin. They found a way to separate the seed from the cotton, and that caused the growth of chattel slavery in the South and wage slavery in the North, where they had those women and children working those ungodly hours in those sweat houses. Then, of course, the American Civil War took place, and the South lost, and our country began to print money that they did not have to pay for a war that they could not afford. Seems like they've been doing that ever since. That caused hyperinflation. Needless to say, the South lost the war, and people out of desperation had to go and take jobs over 40%. Then, of course, we had the Great Depression, which leads us up to where we are now, 72% of people, employees. But something even bigger happened. You have to be able to see the big picture, ladies and gentlemen. A system was started called the boss system. And you and I, we were taught this since we were little kids. We were taught to go to school, get a good education, so we could graduate and get a good what? Get a good job. That's the boss system, ladies and gentlemen. That's the system we're under right now. Now, here's the thing. Who does that system benefit? It benefits the bosses, the Andrew Carnegies, the Rockefellers, and the rest of them. Are you with me? Same ones that funded those big universities and those beautiful libraries up in New York City. So, but let me ask you a question. How many of you shop at Walmart? All right, put both hands up and put both feet up. All right, they got great prices, right? But what's the average salary or earnings of the average employee at Walmart? All right, it's less than $10 an hour. Well, how much does the store manager make? All right, store manager makes six figures. He makes a percentage of profits, 100, 150, 200,000. Well, what about the CEO of Walmart? How much does the CEO make? Well, what about over $16,000 an hour? And whose name do you see in the top 10 list of Forbes' wealthiest Americans more than anybody else? You see the Waltons. All right, so Sam Walton, going to be with the heirs, going to be with the Lord, but his heirs are rolling. In fact, one of them is the wealthiest person in the state of Texas, where all the oil is. Another one is the wealthiest person in the state of Oklahoma, where the rest of the oil is. Are you with me? So you and I, we go and we shop at Walmart every day, and we don't think nothing about it. But when it comes time to supporting one another, then we have an issue. Well, why is that? It's because we've been taught that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a change now. Would you agree? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a few things with you. Now, community crowdfunding is not a business or an income opportunity. Our donation distribution formula is purely based on crowdfunding, and we make no claims or guarantees of the contributions that your project will receive. Each individual's project success depends largely on his or her commitment, desire, and personal efforts. So the amount of money that you raise for your project is based on your work ethic. Now, how do we build this community? We build it by word of mouth, by sharing the concept with others, because community crowdfunding is referral-based. And the following example I'm about to give you is not typical and is hypothetical, because in the real world, it will never happen in this manner. Some project managers will refer 5, some 2, some 1, and some none, but some will refer many more, so each situation is unique. Your total financial risk, ladies and gentlemen, is only the initial donation that you make to your referrer's project, which is non-refundable and a personal choice. So let's talk about this for a moment, because we have two ways that we raise money. Remember, we talked about direct funding, and that's free. You write your story, you promote it yourself, people donate, the money goes directly to you, you get 100% of the money. That's free. The downside to that is that you have to keep going out and finding people who are going to donate to you. So that's one way. Now we have this other way. It's called community crowdfunding. This is where we support the projects of one another. Now, to get into the community, you must first give in order to receive. So what are you going to give? You're going to give a one-time donation out of your pocket of $200. It's going to go to the project of the person or the organization that referred you. You never have to go back in your pocket again. There's no yearly cost, and there's no monthly fees. 100% of that donation goes to the project or the person who referred you. All right, so that's how you get in the community. So now what I'm going to do is break this down for you so you have a clear understanding. In this presentation, we just want to give you a taste of how it works. We have other presentations that go into more detail. So let's go ahead and get into this. So we're going to share with you how our donation distribution formula works. It's very simple and very easy to understand. So the first thing you need to know is that there are projects in our community before you join. In fact, there's over 25,000 projects and individuals with us right now, okay? So for you to join the community, you're going to make a donation to the project of the person or organization that referred you, and they're going to get 100% of the money. So that's what all these folks have done here. So let's talk about these projects. These are all real people, by the way. So project number one is a gentleman who needs to raise $50,000 to purchase a new handicapped-equipped van to replace the one he has now for his son. The second one is a gentleman who has an after-school project. He services 700 children throughout the school season, and he needs about $28,000 to do some repairs to his bus. The next person has a program where he teaches people financial literacy, but he wants to be able to do it for free. So he's raising money to pay the expenses so he can teach people at no charge. The next person has an international project. He actually wants to raise money to feed starving children around the world. And the other three projects are people just like you and I. They have personal goals. They have business objectives or charitable causes that they're raising money for. All right, so once you join the community, your job then is to go out and spread the word. Remember, we said this is referral-based. So project number one, he went out and shared the concept with 10 people or organizations within the first week, and 5 of them decided to participate. So the first one is a sports team. They need money for equipment, for uniforms, and for traveling expenses. Next is a gentleman who wants to raise money to start a business. Then we have a young lady who wants to graduate college debt-free. Isn't that a novel idea? Then we have the happy couple that wants to pay for their wedding and honeymoon. Then we have the aspiring author. This is a young lady, and she has 5 books that she wants to self-publish. So in order for them to join our community, they had to make a donation, a one-time donation of $200 to the project of the person who referred them. This is project number one. So 200 times 5 is how much? That's right, it's $1,000. So how much of this money went to project number one? 100% of it. That's right, he was able to raise this money in 1 week. Now, here's the thing. How many people and organizations can he refer? He can refer as many as he wants. It's unlimited. And he can raise a lot of money simply by referring people to the concept. But that's him working by himself. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about what happens when you work within a community where we support the projects of one another. So let me show you how you activate that. You take a little bit of your surplus, you take a little bit of your overflow, and you share it with the next 3 projects in our platform. So how much is that going to be? It's $320. Now, where does this $320 come from? It comes out of the money you received. It doesn't come out of your pocket. You remember we mentioned that? You never have to go in your pocket again. So that means that this is a self-funding program. As I mentioned, it's just a one-time $200. You never have to go back in your pocket. Everything else comes from the donations that you receive. There are no monthly fees and there are no yearly costs. So this $320 is shared with the next 3 projects. The software does it for you, by the way. So project number 2 is going to receive $160. Project number 3 receives 25%. And project number 4 receives 25%. So you can put this on automatic or you can do it manually. But by the way, you don't have to do this at all. This is completely voluntary. You can keep this $1,000 and use it for your project. Or you can share a little bit to help someone else. And what is that going to do for you? Well, that qualifies you to receive donations from the other projects that are coming after you. What other projects? These 5, we're going to say that they go out and they refer 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. So now you have 25 projects donating $160 to you this time. So how much money is that? 5 times 160, that's an additional $4,000 for your project. So now I have a question for you. These 25 people, do you know these people? No, you don't. They're part of the community, and that's the power that you're going to see here in just a moment. So now you have $4,000 for your project. You can use it all, or you might decide that you want to share some of it with the next 3 projects so you can receive more donations from the other projects. Remember, in our platform, we support the projects of one another, and the more people you help, ladies and gentlemen, the more help you get. That's a universal principle, isn't it? So we're going to say you have $4,000 here. How much are you going to share now? It's going to be exactly double. It's going to be $640. All right? And so this $640 is shared with the next 3 projects. Half goes to project number 3, 25% to project number 4, and 25% to project number 5. Now, because you gave out of your surplus, you qualify to receive donations from the other projects that are coming after you. So in this example, we're going to say that these 25 refer 5 also. 5 times 25 is 125, except this time you're going to receive $320 from those 125 projects. So how much is that? Okay, you need to do the math yourself. 125 times 320. Well, this is significant. And this amount here will do some amazing things for a lot of families, a lot of charities, and a lot of organizations out there. All right, now. So now, that amount, you can use that for yourself or for your project, or you can take a little bit and help someone else within our community. So how much is that going to be? It's actually $12.80, exactly double this amount. Where does this money come from? It comes out of the money you've received and not out of your pocket. So this is shared with the next three projects. Half goes to project number 4, which is $640, 25% to project number 5, and 25% to project number 6. Pretty powerful, right? Now, because you gave out of your abundance to help someone else, this is community crowdfunding, ladies and gentlemen. It is simply people helping people. Because you did that, you qualify to receive donations from the other projects that are coming after you. So what other projects? These 125 refer 5 each. That's 625 projects, this time donating $640 to you. So what does that look like? That looks like a life change. That looks like you just had a breakthrough. That looks like your dreams, your hopes, your plans, they have been answered. Simply because people came together and supported one another. It's so amazing. It's so profound. But yet you can miss it. Can you see that, ladies and gentlemen? Now, here's a question for you. Is this all the money? Absolutely not. This is just the beginning. Is there anybody on the call right now? You've been believing for something? There's something that you want to do? You want to help somebody? You got a church? You got a mission? You got a plan? Well, I hope that you can see that this is a viable way for you to get the funding. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a grant. It's not a loan, and there's no repayment required. Let's go a little further. What makes this so powerful? It's the power of multiplication. This is why our shared community crowdfunding platform is so different. We use multiplication rather than addition. In addition, that's you and I going out there and doing the work ourselves. We did that already. We've been there, we got the T-shirt. We're talking about multiplication right now. This is when we leverage the relationships, the connections, their influence, and the energy of one another. The difference is mind-blowing. It's exponential. Now, as we mentioned, some funds are received immediately. You could be in a situation right now. You need some funding yesterday. Well, we talked about that, instant donations and cash donations. Now, the community donations, they go into what we call an electronic wallet. And you can withdraw that to your PayPal account. We also have an international debit card, which is good in 170 countries, because as we mentioned, we're all around the world. It's the innovation of technology that creates all of this. Technology is formational, and it has changed our lives. And so we definitely want to get up and catch up with the technology because it has changed things, and I believe for the better. Now, our proprietary software can be set on automatic, as we mentioned, and it'll do all the work for you 24 hours a day around the world. It doesn't get any easier than this. So how do you get the message out? Well, word of mouth is about the easiest way. You don't need any technical skills for this. Just continue to do what you do right now, which is talk to people. Or if you have a few skills, you can send out text messages on a regular basis. You can send out 10 emails daily. You can post on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the rest of them. And ladies and gentlemen, you can set in motion an internet tidal wave around the world that may change your life forever. Remember what the great motivational leader Zig Ziglar said? He said that if you help enough other people get what they want, that you will get what you want. Would you agree with that? Absolutely. Now, this is the power of our revolutionary shared donation distribution formula. We succeed in funding our projects by helping and supporting others to fund theirs. It's a true win-win formula. Can you see that? So you can start today. You can join for free. You can add your dream project to the website. You can join the community by making a one-time small out-of-pocket contribution to the project of the person or organization that referred you. You can begin sharing your project with others. You can help others do the same. And you can keep stepping up and sharing it forward within the community, which qualifies you to receive even more donations from the community. So what's your dream? I think you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that crowdfunding can make it happen fast, taking weeks and not years. In closing, I'd like to ask you this question. What does freedom look like for you? I want you to imagine for a moment that you've been trapped in a cell for 12 months, that you've endured a cold, dark, and lonely place. You've eaten food that tastes like cardboard, and you've gotten very little sleep in a small, uncomfortable room. You work hard day in and day out, and you rarely ever get to see your family. You can hardly ever get visitors. Every day you try to make yourself believe that you're somewhere else because it's easier than really admitting where you are and trying to find your way out. But then one day you hear someone say that an unknown visitor is coming with a key for your release. What would you be willing to do to get that prison key? And what price would you be willing to pay for freedom? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you my story, because I had a construction business, very successful one, for over 9 years. But of course, we had the economy crash a while back. We managed to hold on for a few years, but needless to say, the bottom fell out. Well, we fell behind on our bills. In fact, we didn't make an on-time mortgage payment for over 1 year. Needless to say, we got the foreclosure notice from the bank. And I didn't know what to do, so I contacted a friend. He said, Mark, you need to get a good attorney. That was great advice. I went out and I did so, and that attorney got us some more time. But in the end, we still need to pay the bank their money, otherwise we were going to lose the house. Well, by that time, I was involved in this program. I had been involved in this program for about 2 months. And I was able to raise enough money within the next 5 weeks to pay the bank every dime we owed them, to pay the lawyers on both sides, to get back in right standing with the bank, and every dime came from this program. It absolutely has changed our lives. Now, you know, ladies and gentlemen, people try all kinds of things to find freedom. But here's the thing. If you want to get somewhere you've never been before, you've got to do something you've never done before. Maybe those other things you didn't work, but that doesn't mean that you quit. That means you keep on trying till you find the right key that unlocks the doors, ladies and gentlemen. And that's just the bottom line. So we don't want to invite you. We would like to invite you to join our community. Listen, as a community, we can do some amazing things together. And as a community, we can help one another accomplish our goals and accomplish our dreams. It is really, really awesome. So get back in contact with the person who referred you to this presentation. They'll show you exactly what to do so you can get started reaching for your dreams today. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I am going to stop the presentation.